Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.
Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, June 22, 2022. I'll read the agenda and we'll consider that order. Item 1 is public comments. Item 2 is finance and related, which includes treasurer's report, transportation renewal, cleaning contract renewal, phone systems bids, wireless upgrade, copier upgrade bids. Item 3 is policy on equity and transgender and gender nonconforming students. We have an NEC position proposal as item 4. The consent agenda is item 5, including minutes, warrants, retirements, resignations, and nominations. The superintendent's report is item 6, dealing with summer school programs, school calendar, safety committee, elementary teacher prep time, and technology report. Chair's report is item 7. Item 8 is other items to be considered, but none on which we can take action at this meeting. And for your information, the budget status report for June and the student enrollment report for June is included. Is everybody okay with the order of that agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Hearing no objection. Item 1, public comments. Do we have? I don't. Do I see anyone from public? All right, we'll move on to item 2, finance and operations related. We have a treasurer's report from dated May 31, 2022. Is there a motion to approve that report?
So moved.
Motion by Jackie, second.
Second.
A second, and is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report for May 31, 2022, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And the motion carries. Our next item is transportation contract renewal. The packet had it pretty well explained. I don't know if Renee needs to go any further on this.
I can if you'd like me to, but yeah,
Questions if you have.
tried to summarize, everything there in the memo.
Do we have a motion to accept the transportation contract renewal?
I just have one question. The expression in the second paragraph, the stipulation of the statute is total contract cannot exceed 30% of the original contract price. I think that's misstated. It can't exceed 130% of the previous contract. Is that what it means?
Yes, cannot exceed more than 30% increase over what the original contract was. Yep.
It's just not expressed clearly that way. But I took it to be what you just said. I just thought next time we ought to make sure that is more crystal clear. I think
We still don't have a motion on the table.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ray. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the transportation contract renewal as per the memo, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Transportation contract is renewed. Our third item under that heading is the cleaning contract renewal. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
We have a motion, a second. A second.
A second, I'll give you a second.
All right, we have a second from Ray. Discussion.
Um, They're holding this to 3.4% increase. Well, I'm just given the amount of increase in inflation showing up at the moment.
Yeah,
But,
no, with executing the contract extensions
right,
per this part of the statute, we can only allow them the maximum amount to be what's allowed via the NEAP index, and that came out in November, which was 3.4. So that was the maximum that any contract could be renewed for.
you're right. And they're willing to agree to it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, no, we talked about both of these during budget season. And then when I actually went to have them execute the extensions for both transportation and
Mhm.
cleaning, I realized the board never formally took action, although we budgeted for it and we discussed it then. We just never took it to this degree. So
right.
thank you.
So basically, under state law, they're basically limited to this increase despite the inflationary pressures right now. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, that's our gain, but their loss, I guess.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the cleaning contracts renewal at 3.4%, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? We see none, and the cleaning contract renewal is approved. Next item is phone system bids. Do we have a motion to approve the phone system upgrade and replacement? Sorry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Leon Scott. Discussion. Wow.
So this is replacing all the phones in the district?
Adam, do you want to talk to that? Adam Souza from Souza IT, who was overriding this phone proposal.
Yeah, so one of the top priorities when we first came in from the tech team was to upgrade the outdated phone system. This is something that was on our roadmap, but looking at the priorities, it fell to this summer, or it was going to be like mid-school year. But as we started going down the central office move, we quickly realized that we were going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars to basically band-aid this system that's the majority of the system's over 20 years old. And it didn't make sense since we were already planning to upgrade the entire system. This isn't every single component. It's only the stuff that's end of life. So a lot of like the handsets that you see of the phone system are going to be usable. There was an upgrade done in the high school about 2 years ago. That's all staying intact. We're not replacing that. We're actually just expanding the high school system. So this upgrade is to support the central office move without spending tens of thousands of dollars to band-aid the old system, which is primarily housed out of the current central office, but then also to upgrade the outdated system. So for example, where we have the most issues is at the middle school. That system is original to the building, and this equipment has a 10-year lifespan.
Okay, and this one-time cost is budgeted in our budget, Renee?
We're reallocating funds, so there's no budget increase. We're just shuffling money around to cover the costs. Yes.
Okay, and finally, so that doesn't affect assessments throughout the districts. It's in our assessments in
Right,
one way or
it's,
another.
yeah, it should be budget neutral
Okay,
and assessment neutral.
thank you.
Further discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor of awarding the contract to NWN Carousel for $4,313.75 per month to upgrade the phone system, please signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries and NWN Carousel 60-month lease is approved. Next item is our wireless upgrade. I think we're going back to the same
Yeah, Adam probably is better.
person there. Adam.
These
We need a
next items
motion.
are his.
We need a motion to consider this.
So move.
We have a motion from Leon
Second.
and second from Jackie. Questions and discussion.
Well, I thought we'll probably have a discussion first, so, I mean, from somebody.
Well, we're waiting on Adam. If-
Okay,
If you're
because
all clear. Go ahead, Adam.
All right, so the network upgrade. So again, this is actually a project that we started probably the first week we started. We went through a federal bid process on this, and we were able to secure matching funds through the E-rate program. This was a first time for the district. Historically, the district was taking an ad hoc approach to purchasing network equipment. This is the first time that we're doing a fleet level purchase. So what that means is we're replacing your infrastructure, which I would think of that as the foundation to the district's technology needs. We're replacing all of it at once. So everything is the same age. It's been worked into the operating budget again by reallocating funds and planning to use these E-rate funds on a regular basis to make sure that we don't end up in the situation that we were in with some equipment ranging from 20 years old all the way down to the most recent stuff that we had was like four or 5 years old. So this is a one-time purchase that you guys will see every 5 years, give or take. That's what we aim for. Depending on budget years, sometimes we'll advise to push it to 6, but we aim at a 5-year cycle on this type of equipment. And this is the foundation that's going to support that phone system. It's going to support the copiers, which are coming up next. This is what supports your camera system, the Wi-Fi, everything throughout the district.
Do you have other discussion?
Is that a total replacement of all existing equipment, or are you keeping stuff that's 3 or 4 years old, or you're actually swapping all that in? It's totally.
We're swapping it all out. The stuff that's still has useful life. What will happen is we're going to move it to like secondary space. So in case, not in case, when something goes wrong, we'll use that stuff as spares.
Wasn't there a consideration at one time for resale of some of that equipment?
Yes, there was.
Mhm.
Yeah. So once we replace everything, we'll assess that and bring that back. I believe that would have to go in front of you guys as well. But there are some delays on this equipment coming in. Some of it's going to show up within a few weeks, and some of it is months out. So we'll revisit the resale of the equipment when once we have it all replaced and we can ensure the district has their needs met.
And what's the transition period? How is that? How difficult is that going to be on existing staff to make this transition to new equipment?
The newer equipment's a lot easier to deploy. It's going to just be plug and play once we do the configurations. So but we're going to plan it. With the supply chain issues, this is going to take until possibly February break to have 100% complete. And that's just because we want to do this stuff during when it's appropriate to cause some disruption to operations. We're going to try to get as much as we can done in the summer before school starts, but not everything is going to show up before summer ends.
But there's also a software transition.
Yeah, so the software.
Usually that's the more expensive transition, isn't it? More time involved in that.
Yeah, so we're gonna work, like our team is gonna work to help configure that and get all that stuff ready. But once it's configured, it just becomes a plug and play throughout the district.
Scott has his hand up. Scott?
Adam, I know you probably went over this back when you addressed us ago. I guess my feeble mind needs a reminder. You just mentioned copiers. There's a lot of infrastructure probably in need. Do you have a forward view that you or the SU could share with the board, just so we have an idea of what's coming? So that these things, I mean, obviously, or not, maybe not so obviously, but we tend to support these types of things, but it would just be nice to have a forward look of what's coming so that we can keep our eyes on things and have a better understanding, and maybe even less questions when they do creep up.
Yeah, so I have a tech report to give you guys later on, and in that report, it's talking about the next big project, which isn't that's 12 to 14 months out. So you will, and that's where I would like to get with you guys. This obviously we started in October, and there were some pretty big deficits that needed to be addressed. Fortunately, we were able to just reallocate funds within the existing tech budget or tech spend. So none of this is bringing a cost increase to the district. And I believe that's also can be said through the assessment as well, because we did this shifts through the SU budget. But we do hope to get to hey, this is what's going to be happening in 2 years from now.
That was my request, Scott, also when I met with Adam. So you will see it as part of what I asked him to put together for the superintendent's report, but and also in our we're in the process of interviewing for director of operations right now. That is a priority with that position too. Obviously immediate planning, but 5-year plan, 10-year plan for all infrastructure, not just, buildings, but the infrastructure that supports it. So I have the same concerns and thoughts, and
that's great. I mean, we just had a little discussion over a $4,000 spend for phone system, which, I mean, that could be gobbled up in 2 buys.
Yeah, right.
We don't need to have that type of discussion. We should be looking bigger and further out. So I get it completely, and thank you.
Yeah.
What rate is it?
Yeah, well, be that as it may, I think the cart is before the horse in terms of presentation. At least we should have had the presentation of the plan before we start.
The plan is everything, not just the wireless upgrade.
Yeah, I got you, but the upgrades are all part of the plan. So, I would have appreciated having the plan in place. And I'm not an IT.
You're not going to see the plan tonight, right? You're going to get a report on what Svsu IT has been doing since October. So as far as the outlining plan that Scott was talking about, that is still very much in the works, and wouldn't be completed in that timeline.
Yeah.
My question is that for the last 2 items, I'm hearing the reallocation of money. And I want to try to understand that. It says that it's the same pot of money, but it's being reallocated, meaning that we've got it in there for something that are we going to be able to see that we had this in
Yeah,
the
I mean-
department for something else, and then it's shifted over here or what?
Yeah, if it would please the committee or board, sorry, we could go to superintendent's report, letter E right now and let Adam give that technology report that would address really the reallocation. One thing I would say, if you remember, we promised no one would lose their job when Svsu IT came on board, right? That's not the intent. But every time somebody left, we would look to assess whether that position needed to be filled or could it be allocated in another way. So when we talk about reallocation, in this particular instance, it's open positions that Svsu IT is deemed that at this time we do not need to fill because of the efficiencies that they're bringing on board. So if the chair agrees and Adam's ready, there's no need for him to wait to 6E. He could give it now. And if you want to table E and F of the financial report till he's done, I'd be fine with that.
Wait, if you want to wait and
Yes.
keep on going, how you want to do it now. I'm
The
saying I
chair
can
has
wait
no
on the answer.
problem. What's the pleasure of the board here?
I'll go along with that, tabling it and waiting for the report.
Me too.
Yeah, well, we'll continue on and wait for the report to be done as according to the agenda that was spelled out.
Okay.
Right?
And
Okay.
the only two things we haven't done is the copier and,
Wireless.
We haven't completed
Wireless.
the wireless upgrade.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Is there further discussion on the wireless upgrade?
No.
If none, all those in favor of approving the SHI International contract, to be provided funds from the general fund. I don't need to read all these amounts, but plus category 2 E-rate and to replace the district's network infrastructure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The SHI contract, international contract is approved. Our next item is the copier upgrade. Is there a motion to approve a contract to Canon Solutions America, Inc.?
So move.
Excuse me, we have a motion by Leon. Is there a second?
second,
Second by Jackie. Discussion. Leon,
I had the opportunity to read the papers, the bid and so forth before coming in and so forth. And so you had two close calls. One, who do we currently have is what I wanted to say, ask, as the copier person, contractor.
Adam?
It's a repeat business. They came in the most expensive on that sheet. So in the other two items that we brought forward, our recommendation was both preferred and cheapest. In this situation, our preferred, based on feedback that we've gotten from other schools, not calling references that they listed, just calling other schools that we know use these brands. With the volume and the issues that we've had over the last 5 years of the current copiers, Canon is the brand that we've gotten the best feedback on in terms of durability. So they are slightly more expensive, but they do have some features that are going to be appreciated by the teachers. Things as when you walk up to the copier, it's ready to print versus having to tap on the screen, wait the 30 seconds for it to warm up. And then also they don't, from the feedback that we've gotten, they don't tend to jam. And that's a huge issue that we have right now. Our copiers are getting serviced almost every week with issues. And it's been like that since I haven't been here.
Adam, didn't you tell me 2 of our schools already use the new vendor? that would be.
And Arlington is on Canon, and they are in love with Canon. They've had zero issues with their machines. So internally we've gotten great reviews from it, and then also externally we've gotten great reviews. So this is, unfortunately, they're slightly more expensive, but I think in the long run, outside of this, from a tech service cost, it's gonna help us as well as a department, because we're not going to be constantly dealing with issues with the machines. This upgrade, it's and this is a lease that was already expiring, and all we're doing is just going out and looking for replacement of these systems. We did include print management software to help with tracking and to start saving paper and reducing our print costs.
Actually, it was the middle bid. It wasn't the most expensive.
When you add the two columns up for the bid, the top bid, and then the supplementary on the side, yeah, I think I didn't add it myself, but
The one doesn't have an annual paper cut.
but anyway, I saw all the justifications down, and I just wanted to make sure and that everybody know that this wasn't the lowest bidder, but that were perks or benefits associated with the use of it, and be more friendly to the people that are going to be using them in the district and in the schools. And that's why we're going to approve that or go with that recommendation.
Further discussion? If none, all those in favor of awarding the contract to Canon Solutions America in the amount of $60,415.20 signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No abstentions? Motion carries. Canon USA contract has been approved. Item 3, we have 2 policies to look at this evening to warn. The first of those is equity policy number 5510.
Can you do something in this? Yes.
Is there a motion to
I'll make a
warn
motion.
this policy?
It's a warning.
It's a warning, so Ray is going to make a motion to warn it, and I'll second it.
We have a motion and second.
And I'll read some things here for the public to make sure they understand more things about this particular policy. I saw some items I didn't out in the print that may be misleading people. I want this is policy, equity policy 5510. The district are committed to the success of every student, regardless of race, ethnicity, religious, family, economic, classic, geographics, ability, language, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or initial proficiencies. The Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union holds themselves and the district and the school decision makers, faculty, support staff, accountable for building a district-wide commitment to equity. And therefore, the Southwest Supervisory Union will incorporate principles of equity within all policies, programs, operations, practices, and resource allocations. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Other discussion? Jonathan, anything to add to that? No.
Nope.
We have a motion to warn 5510 equity. And a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries and 5510 is warned. Our second policy is 5520, transgender and gender non-conforming students. Is there a motion to warn?
So move.
We have a motion from Leon. Is there a second?
No second.
Second from Ray. Excuse me. Discussion.
I'd like to
Yeah.
have an item for discussion.
You want to read it? I mean, I'd like to read
Oh,
the,
sure,
the
sure.
the policy so everybody
Go
can
ahead.
understand what it is.
Mine is
here.
on the administrative.
And I'll start, yes, and I'll start with nine, Title 9, I mean, line 9, Title 9 of the Education Amendment of 1972, 9 VSA 4502, protect all students from sexual discrimination, including transgender students, students who do not conform to the sexual discrimination of including transgender students, students who do not conform to traditional gender stereotypes. The district provide a safe, orderly, civil, and positive leadership environment, a learning environment for all students, regardless of their preceding or actual sex or sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression.
Now discussion?
Go, Jeff.
Okay, so I'm on page 3 of 4, use of gender segregated facilities. So it says here, a transgender student should not be required to use a locker room or restroom that conflicts with the student's gender identity. And this is in the admin regs. It's not in the policy. It's the admin regs. So, and these things could be changed now or in the future, even if we want it and accept it as policy. But on line 26, any student who expresses a need or desire for increased privacy will be provided with reasonable alternative arrangements. My desire right now is to have it end right there and skip out reasonable alternative arrangements, because those things, reasonable alternative arrangements, need to be discussed with teachers and especially with coaches and people who supervise locker rooms. And so I don't know if we need a committee to gather up and make the arrangements or make a different paragraph in there, whatever we need to do. We need to protect all students, not just the transgender students. And so my thought is, I think coaches know the best answer to this question. And I think they should have a voice in the admin regs. Because there's kids out there, particularly at the middle school and high school, who have never been in a locker room, shower room with even their peers, you know. And so it's not just transgender kids, it's all kids that we have to do. So as I said, I'd like a committee formed for the wording of that.
We already have the policy committee.
Well, that's what
Stay,
I'm
we
saying.
go back there. Yeah.
We
Yes.
have the policy committee, and what you're talking about would fall under the administrative reg part
Right,
of the implementation of this. So we're not
Correct.
changing the policy at all.
correct.
The question that has arisen is that we want to know a little bit more about how it's going to be achieved.
Correct.
Okay,
And
and that can be discussed in terms of administrations. You hear here.
right, and I'd like some coaches in on that one.
Well, I can't tell them who to put in on it.
Right.
I can't, you know,
I'd like some volunteer coaches out there to come and tell us how this could be implemented best for all students.
For our next policy.
So really, that discussion again should go back to the policy committee.
right. And
Yes, that's what I'm
Because
saying.
it's not just this board, it'll be, any changes will impact all boards. So we're happy
Correct.
to take Jackie's request back to the policy committee.
Yes.
that's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes, I hear.
I
We
agree.
need to go back to the policy
agree.
committee and the individuals that are responsible for making sure that.
Right, I'm just pointing it out.
Right, thank you.
Okay,
I presume this is a federal and state guideline that we have this in place. Is there a timeline that we have to meet?
Yeah, we needed to have this ready for school term coming up for next year. So there's no reason why we can't warn it. This policy is not in jeopardy
Correct.
here. It's the administrative regs that they want to see something much more defined than that. And we can ask that.
Mhm.
That's all.
Is there further discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second to warn 5520 transgender and gender nonconforming students policy. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your
Aye.
hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, 5520 is warned. NECC position proposal, item 4.
We have Nick Galt and Kate Abbott here. I'm not, which one is going first on this?
I think I'll probably speak to it. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it. I will not be reading the full proposal, but I'll give a summary of how we got to where we are, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So we have NECC classrooms in 3 of our elementary schools, the middle school and the high school, and those classrooms are served by internal SVSU.
We may have new members here, Nick, so.
Oh, sorry, the New England Center for Children. They run, Kate might know the verbiage more specifically than I do, but they run, you want to just give a one sentence overview of what NECC does?
Yep, New England Center for Children is our partner program that works right in our schools to provide education and for learners specifically that have that might not be neurotypical. It primarily serves children that have autism spectrum disabilities. And there are 2 classrooms at two classrooms at Molly Stark, 1 at Bennington Elementary, 2 at the middle school, and 2 at the high school next year.
And the staff in those classrooms are made up of NECC, New England Center for Children staff, which typically include the lead teacher, the BCBA, the managing, I don't know what we call like Alina and Megan, but the managing BCBAs, and then intensive special needs specialists who are SVSU employees. Those positions are covered under the support staff collective bargaining agreement. So approximately 45 intensive special needs, because it is a one-to-one program, a one-to-one model program. We have, in recent negotiations with the ESP collective bargaining unit, they have raised the question about creating a separate classification for NECC paraprofessionals, for lack of a better term. They cite additional training and requirements that are not present in other positions, in other classrooms, in other places within the district. That's not something that has come to fruition through negotiations, but recent events have led us to believe that it's necessary that we act on that outside of a negotiation year. So those recent events mainly center around what I will say, I jest a little bit, but poaching of other programs, behavior programs that are offering these employees significantly higher rates of pay because of the training they receive here in those NECC classrooms. So we have had some significant turnover issues with those classrooms, and we really would like to commit to trying to keep those employees here and be able to attract new employees to those classrooms in the future. They actually came together and talked with us about their concerns. We spoke with the NECC, we spoke with myself, Kate, we spoke with the NECC staff and management about what this might look like. And what we landed on was a proposal for a newly created position called a registered behavior technician. That comes with special certification and examination. So there are an even higher threshold of training that was required. And what we are proposing is that we would create this position with a higher pay rate that you can see on page 2 of the proposal. So this is within the collective bargaining agreement, establish a higher pay rate. We would make that position available for those employees currently in NECC to apply for. So it would not be, we would not automatically transition employees to this classification because it does require additional training and certification that they would have to commit to doing. But we want to make that position available. And the rationale is really, we feel that it will allow us to retain and attract the folks that we need to run these classrooms. As Kate can attest to, with a one-to-one program, Any vacancies really put us at risk for having to potentially close a classroom. And that's something we don't want to do. And we have not had to do, I don't believe, Kate, even through the pandemic.
We did a couple times, actually.
We did a couple times. Okay, my
Yeah.
apologies. So in a program that really stresses having one staff member for every student, even 1 or 2 vacancies can be a concern. The financial impact for this is not insignificant. The only number that we could run reliably was to assume that every single ISNS intensive special needs currently working in an NECC classroom applies for and follows through with the certification examination and everything and becomes an RBT, a registered behavior technician. If that were to happen, we would see a maximum cost of about $136,000. It's impossible really to say whether everyone will do it. It is perfectly feasible that people can remain in their intensive special needs positions within that NECC classroom and not become a registered behavior technician. And we don't have a good sense of how many would pursue this. We feel many of them would, but we can't say definitively. So this was the maximum number that we identified as what it may cost for the change in wages, factoring in all those additional FICA, municipal retirement, workers' comp, unemployment, taxes, and things of that nature. And I think that's pretty much in terms of where we anticipate the funds coming from. In speaking with Renee Gordon, we anticipated, looking for breakage through the FY23 budget as we go throughout the year and identifying those areas based on how many folks end up pursuing this position. And really, it's about maintaining staffing levels. We really have struggled with the NECC para positions and are concerned that without that higher pay rate, we're going to lose more of them and have a really hard time filling them. And this is not just true of the current labor market. This is something that predates COVID, and I would anticipate extending beyond if we leave the situation as is.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of this, Nick, is, you probably know, I came up in the negotiations of some things here, especially bullet point number 6. Staffs, the requirement to do multiple trainings that include COM P and COM B in terms of escalation and de-escalation of students was a subject during the contract negotiation. So I want to make sure that you realize that this was brought up, even though we said we would do something out here in those areas in terms of making sure that the para individuals that are working in those areas got the training that they need to be able to better manage things in that area. So basically what I get out of this is we now have the opportunity for all of the individuals to work their way up by using the word staffs are required to pass multiple training areas in that. So, and the path way to do that is what we wanted to do with the discussion for that. We couldn't just do it automatically. We wanted to bring education in and skill along this. And I think this is exactly along the guidelines for what we wanted to do for the contract.
Jackie?
Oh, I just wondered, have you all run this by the union?
Yes.
Absolutely, it's a great question. Yes, we spoke with them after we had formed the proposal. They were on board. I think it matched, what they were hoping for out of negotiations, and they have advocated for this on a number of occasions, so they were comfortable with the proposal.
Right.
Can I extend that question just a bit? I hear about following COVID behavioral issues in classrooms, in regular classrooms, and not connected to NECC. You have no concerns as this might become a slippery slope in areas where teachers are dealing with behavioral problems in regular class?
I think, we're going to open up negotiations with support staff in September. and then a year from summer with teachers. And I think the points that you're making, Dick, is certainly going to be at the forefront of negotiations.
Thank you.
I especially like the training part. I think that's very, very good.
Let me just ask a clarifying question. In the, this document is the proposal. In the justification, you cite these bullet points are things that the staff are already doing, correct?
That's correct. Yes,
Right.
those are, that is what is done above and beyond already for an NECC para
Right.
of an ISNS.
Right. So those are actually the basis of the RBT certification, are they not?
Not entirely. So if you flip to the proposed section,
Right.
page 2, we talk about the further training certification. I didn't provide all of the details that NECC
Okay.
provided, but there is an examination that's passed. There is supervised training supervised by a BCBA. It's a board certified behavior analyst that NEC provides. All of this training is going to be provided at no cost. So this is above and beyond. We're saying this is beyond what's on page 1, what an NECC paraprofessional already does. That's more than an ISNS in another place, in another classroom. In addition to that, they have to go through this additional RBT training. They have to take an exam. They have to be supervised by BCBA. So it's adding even more above and beyond what they currently do.
So currently we're talking about 45 employees, right?
Yeah.
These 45 employees do the extra duties that, or the extra work that's cited under justification, but in order to become RBTs, they have to do further things that are specified in responsibilities, qualifications and responsibilities on the registered behavior technician job
That's
description.
correct. Yes.
Okay, so I got that. Now, I have one quibble with bullet point 3 under qualifications under the RBT description. It says willingness to enroll and complete RBT certification. I think that is incorrectly worded because this is an actual description of what an RBT job is, and willingness is actually not applicable. They're already enrolled and completed that
Right.
RBT certification.
Right. No, noted. So we could modify the job description to reflect that the completion of the RBT certification is a requirement, as opposed to their willingness being a requirement.
Right.
So I can make a note about that. That's
So the point that was just made earlier about other paras and other situations, maybe who are also dealing with behavior changes that due to COVID, wouldn't actually apply because you're actually asking for a lot of further training for these.
That's right. And that's what that same for the training is what is making them attractive to other employers.
Exactly. I got you. They're halfway or what, 3/4 of the way to this enhanced status, and they're a valuable person in the system. Right. Gotcha.
One more question.
Yeah.
Can all 45 people apply for this program?
So yes, if
Training?
approved with the understanding that we had put a sort of cap, not a cap, but not to exceed financial impact. That was with the assumption that every single one applies for and meets all the requirements, certification and examination requirements to obtain that position. So yes, while we don't anticipate every single person will do it, we could accommodate every person doing it.
But you are trying to encourage all of them to.
Absolutely. Yes, I think it benefits everybody.
Yep, right.
These will be even more highly trained staff members working with those students. So we would not restrict it. We would encourage everyone to apply for it and go through with it.
Well, knowing all that, and one of the things that far as making sure that everybody has the opportunity to take advantage of it. During the negotiation time, it was stated a lot that individuals did not want to leave and go somewhere to try to take classes to prepare. So my question then in here, the tests and the preparation, I know that will be done here, but the testing part for that to be certified, is that going to be done right here at SVSU or where?
I don't know if Kate, if you can answer that. I'd have to go back to my communications with the NECC, I think it was the regional manager, as to whether or not that was a certification exam that they would have to go and take at like a testing center, or is
So-
that like ComV and ComP, where
ComP.
we do the examination here, and by we I mean the NECC.
So we didn't talk location, but the BCBA's is basically the RBT is working under the BCBA's license. So the BCBA is providing the training, doing the certification test, and then doing the supervision once a week. So it's kind of like almost like an LPN working under an RN or that kind of situation. So it's very much tied. So we provide all the training on site for all the other components of the job. I don't see that this would be any different at all because the supervising BCBA's are on site.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was clear because that was a point of contention before, not being able to leave their workplace and leave their town, the area, to be able to go somewhere and get the training. So we're going to make it available to them right here, and they have the opportunity to take it during the hours that they're going to be within the district, so that they can improve, advance themselves. Thanks.
Further discussion? No. We have a motion and a second for the RBT proposal as illustrated by Nick. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The proposal is approved.
Thank
Thank you
you.
all very much.
Item 5 is the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of May 25th, 2022. Warrants, retirements, resignations, and nominations. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Jackie, was that Scott?
Scott? Mhm.
How about a second, Scott?
Second.
We'll discuss. No discussion.
None.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Todd.
Jim, I noticed that we had a resignation from the Arlington Food Services.
Yes,
I'm also aware that there was another resignation.
yes.
What does that mean for Arlington's food services?
So we're in discussion with Dina Atwood on what exactly that means. We're waiting for her opinion because you also know that, are you aware that the food service, Renee's here too, the food service vendor did not renew their contract with Arlington?
Was not aware of that, no.
Yeah, and Renee, you here? So they notified us that they're not. So not only do we have 2 open positions, Arlington, we're in the process of getting a food service provider. And then if they say it was somebody like the Abbey Group, whose employees are who, so that's what we're trying to get settled out before we come to the board with that on, because there's 2 openings, right, Nick, in Arlington right now. And of the 4 employees, what happens to the 2 that you still have? And, I'm saying this in a public meeting, so I don't want those employees to panic, other than that, we are working through with food service provider and our attorney to see how this is all gonna. Nick and Renee, did I leave anything out on that?
I think I would just add that once we received the letter of non-renewal, we immediately reached out to the Agency of Education. It's a first for their new person there as well. So we're working through it together, but their recommendation was to just amend the Abbey Group's contract to include Arlington and Fisher. which we can do because of the way that the RFP was framed, we included all the schools within the SU. But it's just like you pointed out, Todd, the question of, are the employees going to remain SU employees, or will they transition to the Abbey group? So we're working through that.
Okay. Thank
Other
you.
discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved, which brings us to the superintendent's report. Jim?
Evening. Superintendent report tonight is going to be composed of reports from many other people besides superintendent. First one's going to be Assistant Superintendent Laura Boudreau, who is going to speak to you about the summer school programs for this summer of 22 in the SU. Laura?
Thanks. So this is just a quick update. So as a reminder, we're providing extended year service for students who have an identified need and recovery. And as a reminder, the state provided us with the definition of recovery, which is all around mitigating the impact of the pandemic on the academic, social, and emotional well-being of our students. And so the summer recovery and extended year plan under the direction of Melissa Senecal, our Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and Kate Abbott and her team, focused on EYS, have identified in partnership with building staff, students in need of service. So the EYS recovery program will run from district-wide from July 5th to through July 28th. So it's Monday through Thursday. We are focusing at the school level, we're focusing on providing skilled educators to provide intervention. We want to put the highly skilled teachers in front of the students. So they're getting their needs, whether it be academic or social emotional, met. And then after they receive their intervention, some of our younger students will attend extended day services in partnership with the YMCA, which is a practice the state fostered last year, which is a great idea, is building relationships with your community. So we are thankful for that partnership. For our younger students, we have sites at Arlington, Shasbury, Pownell, and the Bennington site is serving a large group. And then at the secondary level, the programming is very much specific to the programming needs of the students being served. We are thankful for our relationships with transportation services, DUFOR, and with Arlington, and then being able to provide food as well to the students. So I'm thankful for the many. It was a heavy lift this year. We can only serve as many students as teachers that would like to work in the summer. And so our numbers were a little bit down this year, but I know that the people that are preparing the actual implementation are geared up and excited. These wonderful materials you see behind you are all part of resources to provide intervention. So we're also thankful. And the funding that we are using is ESSER funding to support this work right now. So we have this opportunity for multiple years. And again, our plan was already approved by the state last year. So I just wanted to give you an update. So in a couple of weeks, there will be learners back in buildings receiving services and having fun and enrichment all at the same time.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions for Laura before I go to the next item? Okay. The 2022-2023 school calendar had raised some concerns, particularly around how many half days, the joint calendar with Arlington and Sandgate now into one calendar. So we did go back and look at it as we promised we would. So on June 17th, and this should be in your packet if you got it electronically. If you got it by mail, it wasn't in your packet yet because I don't think it was completed by the time what went in the mail had to go to the mail, but you should use a calendar that says revised June 17th, 2022. There's 4 less half days in this. I know it's not, you know, I've had advocates on both sides of the aisle, those who want a half day every week to those who don't want any half days, but there are 4 less. We did some shifting in January and in March, days that were the same week that had a full day off because like for an example, there was a day in January that was going to be a full day off on Friday because it was the end of the marking period. So by getting a little creative and moving the end of the marking period to the Wednesday that was the half day, that is now 1 less impacted day on families. Same thing happened in March, and we did away with a half day in December. And so I think this is the best it's going to get at this point, though. Today, I received another email from a concern about the number of half days for the beginning of kindergarten. So I did respond that we will continue. We will look at this. I'm never going to say that this calendar is final, other than vacation days and the start of school, so that families can plan that way. If there's ways that we can accommodate someone else, we'll continue to look at it. But at some point, it's going to be final. But to anybody listening, if you have another calendar, shred it, cycle it. Use the one that is, and I'm going to make sure that all calendars going forward have a revision date. If there is any other revisions, this says June 17th. This is what is now up on our website too. So again, I want to thank everyone, the principals and Laura, and particularly Lisa Poplaski, who, plugs away all these revisions as we try to accommodate so many different schools and varied interests, and the impact that it has on students, staff, and families. Any question on calendar before I go next?
Well, it's not a question as much as a forethinking type of calendar that you could conceive of in the future. It would take a lot of work, but due to the pandemic and due to other circumstances and children not going home and parents having problems picking students up for early dismissal, have you ever thought of starting school at 7 in the morning, having all of your activities in the middle of the day, and then stopping school at 5? And it would serve 2 purposes and probably save money too, because you wouldn't have to have an activity bus. It's been noted that in some of the literature that some kids don't get to participate in activities, don't get their social emotional connections, because when they go home at 2 o'clock, they go home to an empty home. And when they go home to an empty home, nobody's there until about 6 o'clock. So what does a kid do for that many hours? And it's not homework. I can attest to you, it's not homework. So maybe sometime in the future, we could think of a calendar like that, and all the teacher half days could be consumed in those times as well.
So we never stop looking at different scenarios. Of course, we are in a unionized environment, so changing the working day like that would require negotiations, as well as just changing the calendar. I have requests, I have a high school principal who would love to have high school start every day, not before 9 o'clock. But then, then I have an athletic director who doesn't want that calendar. So we are always looking at what, and we see the research too, Jackie. We know what research says it's best learning times for students. And of course, it varies by grade and age. So whether we're ever going to get to what is an ideal, the calendar is one thing. What we're talking about now is this, what the student day is, which, would be different. And we also have research, that when we do professional learning for teachers, and that's what a lot of this half day is for, is we need it consistently throughout the school year, not just, here's a day at the beginning of the school year, here's a day in the middle of the year, and then here's a day at the end of the year. So that's what a lot of these half days are for professional learning, so that we can elevate our staff and improve delivery to our students, and also to give them time to study data for how the students are improving. So I realize the impact it is that it can have on families half days, but it is, I consider it vitally important for our teachers and for our principals particularly. So again, I'm not ruling on anything, and we have discussions at the administrative level frequently about what the ideal calendar would be and what the ideal student day should be. And, and like I said, I get it from what a high school view should be on a perfect day and what the early childhood, director might tell me would be the ideal day. So, it's going to come down to compromise and negotiations if we're ever going to change it.
Right, and in the private sector, for instance, I have a nephew who goes to Thayer Academy. He's required to attend either a sport or a club. And when kids do that, they, especially at the middle and high school, they belong to a group. And so they're not isolated. The one thing that we might change this year, and I don't know if it's possible, is to have anybody who wants a ride on the activity bus be accommodated. And I don't know if that's a circle or just so many buses, but we really need to look at that so that if kids want to stay late at school, they can.
I'm not prepared to answer what that bus,
I understand.
I don't have any
understand.
information before me for that this evening, but all good points that we will note. Items C and D on the superintendent's report come from negotiations with both the teachers and the support staff. One way that we reached a settlement last negotiating cycle was to form these two committees. And the committees had a charge that they had to report back to the board by May of 2022. So here we are at May of 2022. I was part of both these committees. Nick Galt orchestrated both these committees. We met with both support staff and teachers. One of them, the elementary prep time, is going to require action from you. But the first one is just the staff safety committee report for you to review and for us to meet the obligation that was set out in contract negotiations. At this time, I'm going to ask Nick to speak to the staff safety committee report.
I'll do my best not to just read everything in here, as it's a lot of information. As Jim indicated, we were tasked with forming a committee, administrators, faculty, and support staff, and discussing issues of staff safety. We formed that committee. We met a total of 7 times as recently as May, which is why we did not present our findings on May 1st. We issued ourselves additional meetings into the month of May. Again, without going into everything, we discussed a lot of issues, and finally, we really centered on a focus of looking at kindergarten, grade 1, the transition from pre-K to kindergarten, and that was based on some anecdotal kind of evidence and conversations that were then kind of verified by the data findings, data analysis that we did with our behavior and social emotional coach, which supported that a large number of major behaviors were occurring at the K1 grades. So we chose to focus on that as an area. We looked at what, and you will see in this report when we get to addressing outcomes, you will look at some of the things that have already been done. And so that is something I'll speak to briefly. The number of positions that have been added in recent years: BCBAs, board certified behavior analysts, behavior specialists, social workers, guidance counselors, family engagement specialists, social emotional support workers, and additional positions coming in the FY23 budget. Those we feel are in direct response to some of these issues that we identified as the committee and that we reflected on. Changes to the calendar, changes to the pre-K transition process. All are things that are already happening that we hope will be part of the solution to some of these issues. Integration of play and art therapy. So again, and partnerships with community supports. And I list so many of them there, but probably not all of them. So sort of in summary, I'll read 2 sentences from this directly from the report. We felt it was important to note that these issues are not specific to the SVSU. We're seeing and hearing these reports and similar trends throughout Vermont and on the national scene as well. Teachers and staff are becoming so much more than educators, as we, and I mean the collective we, as the school system, as we are increasingly being called upon to meet the social, emotional, and mental health needs of our learners in addition to the curriculum we provide in the academic domain. So it's this idea that we're a full service provider to meet every single need that these students bring to our doors. In terms of next steps, there are some things that we've identified and then a recommendation to the committee. Next steps include explaining the kindergarten half-day rationale to parents, what that means to them, explaining the GISP program, which is the ski program. I don't even know what GISP stands for. And communicating that to families and what that means. Collect data on how implemented changes are impacting safety of staff and learners. So looking at Swiss data on an ongoing basis going forward. I know that's already done in a lot of other ways, but this committee will focus on that as well. Addressing and educating parents on our HHB, our harassment, hazing, and bullying policies, clarifying for staff about disciplinary and suspension roles, responsibilities, and protocol, which is a question that comes up a lot. Disseminating this report to staff and administration. And then one of the big to-dos that we've identified is a survey that we're going to be doing in the fall, which is going to be collaborative between administration and association. It's going to focus on safety and helping our community have a voice to express their concerns, their thoughts, their feedback, their ideas about this issue. And so our only recommendation, and I think to Jim's point, I don't think it actually requires any action, is that we'd like this committee to be able to continue to meet monthly in this coming school year, so that we might be able to provide some further recommendations that you may be asked to take action on, but we feel our work is not yet done. And so we'd like to continue to meet into next.
I think it's crucial to continue to meet, especially as we'll be going into negotiations. I mean, this is in addition to, we meet monthly with the union officials. These were additional meetings and additional committee.
And as I mentioned, the data review, that's being done on so many levels in other places. So I don't want to make it anyone think that this is the only time that people are looking at this data. It's absolutely not, but it was looked at within the confines of this committee. And that'll be a metric that we'll use going forward.
So you want a resolution from the board to continue? I'll make that motion.
Yep.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second, recommending
Of course.
the recommendations Nick provided. Any discussion? Yeah.
Yes, Nick, one of the things that I've been looking at lately is trying to make sure when we have committees and things that look at certain types of things, that there is a regulation or guideline somewhere that says we should be doing something. And what I'd like to know is those list of all those things that are available to the committee in terms of what it is that we actually should be doing when it comes to the regulations to talk about safety from the Board of Education, the federal, whatever we have for guidelines. Because I'm asking board members to look at those things in comparison to make sure that they understand them and understand what we're doing and understand the results of what we're doing based on those guidelines. So if you got a committee together that's teachers, support staff, and so forth, along that line, they need to be responding to some legal guidelines that we started out with from the very beginning, so we won't be in conflict with that. Is that possible? The committee can, somebody.
Well, let's remember what this committee had a sole purpose was. It was a requirement from the negotiations. It was drafted that both sides had to continue to meet on this one topic as a way to get the contract settlement closed. So that was the charge of this committee. So what are you asking beyond that, Leon? Like that's.
Well, you said staff safety, and that safety of the staff is things that administration should be doing based on something out here. I remember, the teachers negotiation, and I know this was a concern out here. And I wanted to know whether we were not following some specifically that we should be following in terms of those guidelines that we started out with. I know they were asking and everybody was throwing out the word school safety, school safety, school safety. And I'm saying, well, what regulation starts out with that we started out with on that? I noticed that we didn't have no one from the teachers negotiation piece still being part of that committee.
This committee was a compromise of two very opposing proposals during negotiations.
Right. I understand.
I don't want to get into here because they're probably going to come up again in negotiations. And I don't, I'm not sure how much of it was discussed in an open meeting or not, but as far as what the full proposal was from the association and what our counter proposal was. And this was the resolution so that, they would sign the contract and we would sign the contract because neither side got the proposal that they wanted on this.
Understood. We'll move on.
All right.
Motion and
But
second.
when I'm saying move on, we're going to continue to meet on this issue and we will keep the board informed. There'll be another report out probably before we open negotiations. D, elementary teacher prep time is going to require some action because this was, again, we could not come to an agreement during negotiations and it looked like negotiations were going to go on and on and on. So the decision was again to form a committee that would look at the issue of elementary prep time and come back and make a proposal. And we believe that we have a proposal that will work and not have a significant impact different from what is already happening in our elementary schools. And again, I'll frame that. And Nick, why don't you go ahead with the report?
Sure. Yeah, and so you'll notice this one does not have a report, but it has proposed language. Similar to the other charge that we had, we included language in the teacher contract that we would form another committee to discuss elementary prep time, so specific to the elementary teachers. And we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about daily required prep. We, as administration, got feedback from our principals. We came to the understanding as a committee of why daily guaranteed prep at every school couldn't be guaranteed because of how schedules are structured. But it was clear that there was a common ground that could be found by guaranteeing that every elementary teacher shall be assigned no less than 200 minutes of preparation time per week, whereas previously it was simply cited that they would have preparation time when their classes were in specials. So providing the guaranteed minutes, our principals gave us assurances that that was not a concern. Many of them were already meeting that threshold. And so making that a reality was not going to be a concern from them. Codifying that in the contract gives teachers the assurance that they're going to get that 200 minutes each week, even if it might not mean a prep every day. And so we all came to the understanding that that was a reasonable landing point. And so what we're asking the board to do is to approve this language change. And I'll follow up with Dina to ask if we actually have to sign a memorandum. But I think
we'd have to do a side letter memorandum of understanding.
But if you approve the proposed change, we could draft the memorandum, have a board chair sign it and have the union sign it, and then we would incorporate it into the existing contract. Scott.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Scott moved. I'll second.
I should point out that for those who don't remember, Arlington is under a different, their teachers and paraeducators under a different contract. So these two discussions, both on safety committee and with elementary prep time, have been with not with Arlington.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. I was on the negotiation committee, and I'm excited to see this move on.
So we have a motion and a second. This discussion on this proposal.
Yes, my thoughts are, oh, you want to go first?
No, I have a question. I thought you was voting.
Oh, no. My concern is, why isn't this just a percent of their pay level instead of just an hourly rate or half hourly rate or quarterly hour rate? For instance, and the rate is just a just a little above of what the paras get. And so my thinking is that another pay lane should be established in order to compensate people who, teachers, for the hour or a half hour that they've missed, according to their pay rate, instead of establishing a $20, $25, and $30 rate.
I think that is a larger question for negotiations and goes beyond what the scope of the charge of that committee was, from my understanding. So it's a valid point, but I think it's really going to end up in the negotiating table when we open the full contract.
So you don't want us to approve this right now?
I want you
We're
to,
not, yeah, our proposed language doesn't impact the piece that you just spoke to.
yeah, the hourly rate piece is not part of what we're.
That's
proposing.
already codified. That's already in the contract.
And that wasn't being contested. It was the guarantee of prep time.
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, so the hourly rate will be established at negotiations?
I would imagine everything that involves money will be up for negotiations.
Great, okay.
Other discussion?
No, this is something that we wanted to do for the elementary level that was missing
Mhm.
when it compared to the other areas. So I'm happy to see this spill out and be part of the contract negotiation piece of the future.
Yes, thank you to the work of the committee.
Go ahead.
No, I was just, thank you to the work of the committee.
Yeah.
That's hard work.
And to our principals too, who all weighed in on how this would impact them. So
Everybody, right.
Okay, all those in favor of the proposed language for elementary teacher prep time, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, the proposed language is approved.
thank you. Last part of my report is technology report, and there will be action required in this too. Back when Frank Barnes retired in September, I made the recommendation to the board that we hire an IT company to manage our technology infrastructure, keep our employees employed, but the management part of it was from a technology firm. We hire, as you know, that Svsu IT. You've heard them speak earlier this evening. It's time to renew their contract, but before you vote to renew that, I've asked Adam to come here today, and he has given the administration this update of, what has changed, what's moved forward, what's going to happen next. So I thought that this board should hear his presentation. Adam, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. So I do have a presentation to share.
I'll make you co-host. Are you already co-host?
Thank you. So I know there may be some new board members. So my presentation consists of 3 points. It's a high-level overview of who we are and what we do.
Hold on a minute, Adam. I'm not seeing, Laura, do you have control of this meeting? I don't see where I can make Adam co-host. When I go to his name, it doesn't show up as an option.
Okay, I'll set.
All right.
Got it. There you go. Okay.
So it consists of three main points. Just a high level summary of who we are, what we do, the things that we've accomplished in the 8 months that we've been here so far this fiscal year, and then a glimpse ahead of where we're headed for FY23. So again, I'm just going to go through this quickly. So we're based in Western Massachusetts. We service all of New England. We were founded in 2018. I founded the company after working in-house IT, both on the municipal and education side, looking for a better way to tackle the problems that schools, towns are facing. Today, we stand at a IT team of over 40 professionals, helping direct school districts and support students and teachers in the classroom. We provide customer-focused IT solutions for K through 12 schools and municipalities. We do not work in the private sector. We only work with K through 12 schools and municipalities. We do not sell hardware. We do not sell software. We only do flat rate services. So there's no incentive for our team to ask you guys to do projects where we get paid the same amount, whether you do a phone system upgrade or don't, or a network upgrade. Our model is really built off of trying to make sure that we are have the best interest of the school and the towns that we serve. So our vision is to help teachers teach, students learn, and municipal employees serve their communities. And we do this action through technology services. So we provide professional IT services through our director of IT, help desk, and network and security services, two of which you guys utilize. That's our director of IT and our network and security services. So back on SVSU. So in fiscal year 22, our team started October 1st. So I said 8 months. Realistically, technically our contract was 9 months, but when I put this together, it was around June 1st. So we were able to secure just over $336,000 in what would be seen as grant funding, and this was a first for the district to receive this funding. This was never utilized previously. And this is what's allowing you to upgrade the infrastructure, or that foundation of the technology throughout the district to be able to support some future initiatives. We moved the school district over to a cloud email solution. So previously, email was stored within the high school. So that's an older way of approaching email storage. We moved you guys to the cloud, so we don't have to worry about flooding or the other catastrophes that can happen in a building when email is stored at one single point. And that also, again, we try to connect everything we do to how it's improving teaching and learning. It does drive deeper integration into the classroom with the apps that are currently used. We address security concerns. So this is something that became evident to us pretty quickly in around November. And in December, we initiated changing some things within the district. I don't want to get too far into details about it. And then a few months ago, we found out that your insurance carrier actually handed a non-renewal notice. So because of the security issues, and we just found that out. But because we made the changes that we made back in December, you guys are now back on track to have your insurance renewed. And we do plan to have a third party that's also part of our services that's going to come in and do an audit of everything once we complete all the security changes that we're making. So that audit will be done just to check to make sure that you guys are on track and there's not something that we're missing. Putting my laptop back in do not disturb. We worked with HR and administration to implement an employee review and development process. I have a slide on that. And then we implemented a new support software with metrics, tracking, reporting, on the customer experience, so that teacher experience when they interact with tech, we want to start being able to report back on what that looks like. So the employee review and development process is really driven and built around supporting goal setting and professional learning around 3 categories. So professional growth, which would be someone's customer service skills or business skills, whether that's understanding budgeting better or resource allocation. Then there's the technical growth. We are an IT department. So one of the more important items that's important about our team is to make sure that we're constantly sharpening our tech skills, especially as we roll out things like a new phone system and new copiers and a new network. We really want to make sure that the team is evolving with technology. And then personal growth, because it is important to make sure that people have success and feel successful in their professional life. But we as a team who's in essence responsible for guiding your SVSU employees, we also believe in helping people achieve personal growth. So one thing that we did start right in the beginning was regular weekly meetings with the tech staff to start making sure that they have checkpoints with each other and they start coming together as a team. And then something else that we're rolling out is regular one-on-ones. We view them as the heartbeat of a team. So it is something that's really important. And helps make sure that the team is operating smoothly. So that was FY20. One more slide. So metric reporting. I don't have anything fancy for you guys yet. We need more data, but this is an example of what we will be looking at. So average first reply time, how many tickets are resolved within the first hour, those kinds of things. Tickets created by hour, average tickets by day a week. And this is going to help us drive recommendations to how the tech department should be structured, what type of skill sets we need, et cetera. So that was FY22. FY23. So we're going into FY23 with a refreshed infrastructure. So that's that foundation again, and a classroom that is ready for one-to-one devices. So you guys have invested heavily into a one-to-one program. Unfortunately, the infrastructure wasn't there to support that initiative. And we were getting reports of like if all the Chromebooks were open at once, the Wi-Fi was slow in the classroom. So going into FY23, pardon the supply chain issues, but once we have all the hardware, the classrooms will truly be ready for a one-to-one classroom and ready to start supporting cloud applications. We did also increase your internet bandwidth to meet the FCC guidelines for a school year size. You were, I think, a quarter of what you should have been. So we did increase the internet as well to make sure you're meeting those recommendations and guidelines, and also based on the usage that the school had. So the school is ready for cloud applications and the one-to-one devices. So our focus going into FY23 is going to be assessing IT staffing and resources. So this is a very broad item. We did have some attrition. So it is time to assess and see like what, again, those skill sets. So if we do go out and post a job posting, what type of role are we looking for? Do we need to backfill a position? What do the tech schedules need to look like for supporting these buildings? And then on a resource side, do we have the proper tools? As time goes on, the kits that the techs carry need to be updated and changed to meet the needs of the tasks that they have at hand. So we're going to be assessing that and coming up with a vision forward of what the tech team is going to look like, what the day-to-day is going to look like, what the types of roles that we need, et cetera. Improving the support model. So this is going to be rolling out that virtual office, and this feeds off of assessing staffing and resources. Implementing the district-wide phone system, which thank you for approving that tonight. That's going to bring a huge improvement to the classroom in the way that the school operates. And then the big item is going to be that physical security. So cameras, access control, building alarm system, et cetera. I don't want to go too deep into that because it is around security, but that is an area that needs attention, and how we plan to tackle that. So this is getting into that rhythm where I would like to be. This is something that we need to be looking at in the next 12 to 24 months. So to prepare for this, what we're doing is we're going to do an assessment of what it is that we need, how many cameras, how many doors, come up with a list of wish list items of how they impact operations, And then we're going to start looking at grant opportunities. There is one grant in particular that we're familiar with that we're going to go after. It's called the COPS grant. It will fund up to $500,000 in building security for the district. And then there's a few other grants out there that we can go after. But now that we have this room, we can start going after grants and other revenue sources to tackle these items. So again, how are we funding FY23? So everything we've done has been repurposing funds. There's been no increase to the tech spend. And we've done this by mainly repurposing funds that were spent on patching the network. So this is money that was spent putting out fires versus looking at what the needs are and addressing them in bulk at the same time. A lot of the budget resources were spent putting out fires versus looking at saying like, okay, we have a network, let's replace the whole thing at once. Let's use some E-rate funding, et cetera. And then evaluating staffing levels. So we recently had attrition. So seeing if it makes sense to start utilizing some of that funding. So that's my FY23, I guess, sneak peek, and that's the recap of FY22. We've definitely looked forward to continued partnership with you guys. It's been awesome working with the tech team. One thing that I know I keep saying, like, we, but when I say we, it's not just Suzer IT, it's your staff as well. So it's Chris Aiken, Elaine, Chip, Jake, Chris Rofe. It's the whole tech team coming together to accomplish this stuff. So we definitely look forward to it. I know our team looks forward to continuing to grow and invest in Vermont and start partnering with local municipalities, which we did end up partnering with one municipality in the area, Pownell. But we look forward to continuing to work in the area to help solve the tech challenges that schools like yourself and municipalities are facing.
And thank you, Adam. Now, do you have your proposal?
I do.
That's what the board actually needs to vote on the proposal. I guess I should ask through the chair, does anyone have questions on what Adam presented so far before he gives the proposal for next year?
Other questions? Yes, Jeff.
My only question is, when you do the security model, are you involving the sheriff's department and police department in each of the towns that we exist in, as well as the fire department?
We do plan to engage them. That's actually a requirement of one of the grants that we're going after. And I also think that it's a responsible approach, right? Like we're not the ones responding. So we will go through that process, and that'll be to come. But we do plan to explore.
As Adam said, Jack, he made us aware this week that we need one of the grants. We have to partnership with local emergency response, which we had the discussion of how different that is being a supervisory union and with towns that have police departments and towns that don't have police departments. So, and towns that are covered by the state police. So Adam is aware of that, and that is part of what we're going to work on.
Other questions for Adam? So you would be looking for a motion for the new items to fund?
No, a motion to renew our contract for Suzer IT to continue to be our IT director for the next school year, fiscal year 23. So, and that's what you're going to see right now, his proposal.
So I put together this proposal. Again, it gives a high level overview of the work that we've done and then moving into FY23 and school year 22-23. The cost to renew us is 175,000. Same exact price as last year. We didn't change the rate. Unfortunately, 175 is not divided equally by 12. So it's 174.99,996. And this would continue our director of IT and the network and security services, which includes the direction and helping with that component of the tech department, and then also the network engineering, security side of things.
Okay, so is there a motion?
Does it also include the cloud cost?
Yep.
Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve?
Second.
So, all right, we have a motion from Leon, second from Scott, sounded like.
Yep.
For $174,999.96. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the pricing proposal, signify by saying aye and raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Seeing none, the proposal is approved. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you,
board.
guys.
Thank you. And that concludes my report. Any questions? I'm here.
Any other questions for Jim?
Well, one question. I noticed in the minutes that there was a suggestion that you would bring a new agenda form to the board, but I could see with the amount of stuff on this agenda, I'd wait for that. Just wanted to bring it up, that it was there. It was supposed to come up this month, but
It was Mount Anthony, I think.
We did make the change from Mount Anthony at Leon's request. Yeah. But I think
Yeah, the other question from the last meeting was, you had a tree or a program that would generate a tree of employees.
that's not going to happen in 1 month, but yeah, it's on the organizational chart software for that. Has not happened yet.
Thank you.
great.
Any other questions? Okay. As to the chair's report, I always come back to this. Acronyms. We don't often see members of the public kicking in here, but I know acronyms roll off your tongue like because you use them every day. When I was reading the RBT proposal, I had to keep going back and I see them a lot more than members of the public might. So I guess I would encourage folks to explain some of that a little more often in English. I realize that's hard because you have a job to do that includes all that language, but that may help the public to recognize some of what's going on. The evaluation.
It's a great
committee-
reminder, Dick,
Oh,
and
sorry,
and
Jim.
it's a great reminder, and it's one that Adam's report was modified. We did a dress rehearsal of a report yesterday, and Adam heard what you said. I expressed to Adam, and he had to go back and put some words in that were acronyms, and it's a good point. Every profession has their acronyms, and we forget who else may be listening. So it's a stride. They end up coming through, but yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, right.
Well, maybe we could have a glossary on each report. Or the acronyms contained therein.
That would be pages and pages.
Well, yeah, I don't think so. It wouldn't have to be every acronym, but just for like the certain reports are heavy with them.
Mhm.
And have a little reminder of what this is.
Thank you for considering that. The evaluation committee is
Used to find a date to meet. That's my fault.
And we need a date to meet, so as soon as you could supply what we're looking
Yep,
for.
I'll reach out to you. I got your email.
Thank you, sir. And VSBA updates. Just wanted to let you know that the VSBA is now talking about grant
Acronym?
funding under ESSER ARP for cybersecurity and data breaches. I guess each LEA is eligible for $30,000 in grant forms. I don't know where we are on that, but it came to the VSBA site. Regarding equity, Act One has a working group and there are 2 open seats if anyone is interested. And this is to recommend updates and standards to the state board regarding ethnic and social group issues. August 4th, I will be getting education on Robert's rules through the VSBA. And we're actually having an in-person conference this year at Lake Maury, October 20 and 21 for the conference and the business meeting. If anyone's interested in that, stay tuned. And that's all I have to say. All right.
Isn't there also a one for people who are just joined the board? It's in September.
It's been going on regularly.
Yeah,
New board members and board chairs.
I think if you kick into the VSBA site, they've got all kinds of things that they keep putting out there. Every week they've got something going on. So, otherwise, are there other issues that need to be considered by the board? We can't take action, but for future consideration. Seeing none, for your information, the budget status reports included student enrollment for June 2022 is included. And we have exhausted our agenda. So we need a motion to.
So
make a
moved.
motion. Second, okay. We have a motion from Jackie, second from Ray. All those in favor? Are saying aye?
Aye.
Cat TV is celebrating 30 years of community media. Help support Cat TV's next 30 years by becoming a member today. Your membership will help us continue covering meaningful, local content. Thank you for supporting your local community media station.